For those just joining us for our webinar here, in case you're not sure if you're in the right place, this webinar is about AppTrust, AI Catalog, and more. Live product showcase from JFrog. We're going to be touching on and showing some of the most exciting new products that we just launched at swampUP in Napa last month in September. I'm Sean Pratt. I'll be your MC. I'm a friendly product marketer here at JFrog. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. This session is being recorded and we'll make it available to you typically in a few business days after we wrap up here. If you have any questions, you can drop those into the Q&A or the chat, either one. We'll be monitoring them. We'll try to answer those as the presentation is going on. And if we don't get to any of your questions, don't worry, we will follow up with you with those answers shortly after the presentation. So with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our presenters today. We're really lucky to be joined by some of our senior product and engineering folks. We have Asaf Barkan, who's a senior director of product management on the JFrog security team. Sophie Starchenko, a senior product manager on our DevOps core product team. And then we have Ron Romano, who's our VP of product and engineering for our MLOps group. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ron, who's going to kick us off. Ron?
Thank you, Sean. So in this session, we're going to talk about the JFrog AI Catalog. So let's start. As we all know, AI is becoming an integral part in all new applications. And it's becoming challenging to keep pace with the speed of AI model evolution. It seems like every day there's a new algorithm, new model, new protocol that is coming out to the market and sweeping everyone. Second, we see in companies that it's hard for them to integrate AI without the risks of a misuse and compliance. Am I allowed to use this model? Is it trained on a data set that I can use? These types of questions are coming up from our customers. And third, that delivering AI apps while enforcing security and governance is becoming a real challenge. And what are we doing to address it? We see that there's a rising need for governance, security, and control. Why is that specifically? Because AI is used by many teams, not just data scientists. If machine learning used to be created and used mostly by data scientists for internally developed models, as you can see on the right side for custom models, today there are more types, open source models from Hugging Face, for example, or any other open source model package hub, and external APIs. Other companies use external APIs today, like OpenAI, Amazon Bedrock, Anthropic, and many, many more. So AI is used by all basically the engineering company, not just data scientists. And companies tend to address these challenges with a different set of tools. Some of them are from the new, let's say, Gen AI domain, some of them from the old software realm. And to that end, we created a centralized hub for all your AI and ML initiatives, allowing you to discover models, to govern models, okay, using terms that you're already familiar with JFrog Platform, and serve models in research environment and in production. Okay, so in that, let's jump to a quick demo of the platform. So here we are seeing the discovery plane of the AI catalog. We see that we can discover basically three types of model that I mentioned before. One is external models. Okay, we'll see that in a bit. Open source models, models that community models specifically available from Hugging Face, and custom models developed and managed with JFrog ML by usually data scientists from your company. Basically, it's a hub, centralized hub for all the machine learning AI models used throughout the organization. Let's see the open source models. Okay, so here we're basically taking all of the open source models, all of the 1.8 as of today, million models that are available on Hugging Face, and we are cataloging them right over here. Okay, so let's, for example, see what we can view on each type of model. Okay, So we went into the Microsoft Vibe Voice large model. We can see that its security posture is safe. This is a tag that our security team is putting on each and every model. Okay, this is a stamp of assurance from the JFrog security team that this model is safe to use. And on the right side, you can see the model card as extracted from Hugging Face. Okay, the model card that usually describes what the model is doing, with the technical report, with the link to the code, basically all of the details that are publicly available on that model. So how do I actually allow that model? How do I actually make sure that it's available throughout my organization if I'm an admin that wants to allow a model to be used? So let's go, for example, to one of the open source models. I want to allow this one, okay, this 10 asset model. So what I need to do, simply allow this model and choose the right project, the relevant project. For example, this 10 asset model, I want it to be used only for research purposes. This is a JFrog project. Basically, connect this model to be allowed only on the JFrog research project, not on any other environment. Okay, so now this model is allowed in production, and I can actually deploy it. Okay? I can deploy it on a GPU instance, and I can choose how many replicas I want, and I can deploy it right now in production. Let's see a governance for another model, okay, for an external model. Okay, so here I see all of the external models, basically AI providers that are currently available to be used by the AI catalog. Okay. You can see here models from OpenAI and Google Gemini at the moment. So I want to allow, you see that I already have a lot of models allowed for our organization, both OpenAI and Gemini. And I want to allow O1 for the sake of this exercise. So what I do here is I connect and allow a model. Basically, do the same thing. I want it to be for the research. And I can see that I already have a connection in place. Okay, I already have a connection in place in the finance project. For example, it's a different type of connection, and I allow it. Okay, now that I've allowed it in my finance project, I can see how this model is being used. We use a component, an AI gateway created by us as part of the AI catalog that intercepts messages, okay, to the AI provider and lets you use your JFrog API key. Okay? So you can basically control access to those AI models using your JFrog API key. Okay? And the AI gateway intercepts them. So if for some reason we block a model in production for a production use case, when a model is being used, what is going to happen is that all requests will start failing on these models. We get basically an unauthorized authorized error. This allows fine-grained control of how models are being used and which models can be used in the organization. Now you can see all of the allowed models in my organization. So I see some of them are custom-made, for example, customer churn or DevOps chatbot. I can also see which open source models are already available to be used, and the external models. So these are all of the models that are currently in my AI registry. Another type is the custom models. So here I see, for example, a credit risk model that is deployed in production. Okay, this is a custom model. I can see, for example, its security posture. Also, the code. So this is the FrogML model. Data scientist needs to inherit from that FrogML model. And once they build the model, we can download the build artifact. We can view its source, and we can also look for its security posture. We'll see that in a different build. For example, this one. Okay. You can see that the serving image currently built has applicable errors. Okay, and has some policy violations in software components. Okay, so we also have governance and security from the perspective of custom models. So thank you very much, and I'll hand it over to Asaf to talk about AppTrust. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Hi, guys, and let's start talking about AppTrust. So I'll share my screen. And we are on. So what AppTrust is. So in AppTrust, what we are trying to achieve is to be able to release trusted application version compliant with our business needs. And that will be based on evidence with all the business context that we need in order to make a decision. The reason that we want to use AppTrust, there are a few. First of all, we want to reduce the amount of breaches and incidents that we release, be very much aware of everything that there is in the released version of the application, and be able to control and says whether this is okay or not to release, and by that reducing the number of incidents afterwards. Second is because we have regulation and compliance requirements, might it be industry requirements, customer requirements, or the organization regulation that we need to adhere to. And the last thing is we want to be able to know everything that is attached to the application and manage the resources attached to it, like the packages and the images, and be able to quickly allocate the owners to resolve things. Those are mainly the reasons for us to use AppTrust. Now, how do we do this? How do we do that with AppTrust? So the first thing is we are using a new entity called application entity. This application entity is kind of the level, the new tissue that stitch together packages, images, and lifecycle processes that we are doing to those entity with the business context and a business entity that has multiple different dimensions, from labels to people we need to contact in case there is something wrong with that. So that's the first layer. The second layer is that we are building our virtual SDLC, the development lifecycle, with all the different stages, the maturity stages, and we are plugging in all the gates when we need a gate with all the policies we want to enforce on the application version that are going through those until they are released. So that's the second thing that we need to do. And then when we do that and when we release through the last release gate, then the application version becomes something we are calling trusted release, with an attestation coming from AppTrust, so we can know that, and the consumer of the version can know that as well. And now let's move into AppTrust and see this in action. Let's do that. So this is AppTrust. AppTrust is a new application in the JFrog platform. Looking on a list of applications, we can put as many as we want to in the platform. We will double click on one of them, and the first thing that we see is the business context of this application. This is the pizza shop application, and the application details is the business context, starting from whether it is a production application, how critical it is for us. There is an application key, of course, which is critical, and the JFrog project it is part of, and list of owners. Those are the people we want to contact. And another very important thing is free labels with key and value that we can put on this application in case this is something that will tell us a bit more about the application, so we can use that. So that's the first thing. This is the metadata of this new entity. Now, the next thing is what we are calling the application resources. And the first thing that we are attaching and binding to the application is the application images and packages uploaded to the platform. So in here, as an example, you can see a bunch of releases. Those are Pizza Shop versions, Docker images that have been uploaded, built, created, and pushed from an existing pipeline. In here, we can see also the source control it came from which branch and which commit revision. All of that is part of the application now. This is bound to the application, and it's always something we can allocate the owners wherever this might be in the platform. And now we need to move into the lifecycle. So lifecycle, as you can see in here, this is an example of a lifecycle. It has some multiple different virtual lifecycle stages. Those are maturity stages. In here we see dev, QA, staging, and prod. Customers can create their own virtual SDLC as they care. And one very important thing is the SDLC gates. So you can see in here entry and exit. Those are optional gates that we can put on the SDLC. And the last one, the last gate, which is the release gate, this is the most important and critical one. This is where we are saying what exactly are the policies the application version will need to adhere to in order to be treated as a trusted release, in order to actually get the AppTrust attestation evidence saying this release tests all the processes, everything that needs to be done during the life cycle, and the consumer of this version are okay using it. Might it be our SaaS, our production, another project using the version as a library in the release, maybe. So if you press one of the releases, we can see all the policy that the application version will need to adhere to. In those cases, there are three. One of them saying you need to provide me an attestation and evidence that you completed the previous stage called staging exit. If you will provide that, then you are good as an application version. Also, the application version cannot have any critical CV that are applicable based on JFrog just applicability. And the last thing is that we need to have an SBOM CycloneDX evidence attached to the version. If we do not have all of that, the application version cannot get the trusted release attestation from AppTrust, meaning it will not be trusted by consumer. Now let's see how it works. We will try to promote this version 4.2.0. The only gate that we'll need to pass in here is Sonar quality. This is the only thing that is expected in this space. In this part, we will try to promote that. And we are failing. We cannot do that. Looking on why, we failed the evaluation on the gate. With the policy that failed is Sonar quality test evidence was missing. This is the reason. If we will double click on the version and look on the content graph on all the evidences, we can see that the only evidence is indeed CycloneDX SBOM, meaning we didn't have the Sonar, and this was the reason is that this specific version could not actually move on, and it will never be a trusted release in our case. Now, what we will do is we will try to promote another version, and let's take this version as an example. Looking on this, the evidences already existing here, we see that it already contains Sonar, it already contains Salsa provenance, meaning our GitHub already added the attestation, the provenance attestation for Salsa, and we have the CycloneDX that it is always automatically created and attached by the platform. So now we want to be able to promote that. Only what we want to do in addition is we want to add one policy. We see in here is that we need the Salsa provenance evidence and we need the Cyclone, but we want to create another policy. Let's just do that. And the policy that we will add, it will be policy on the QA entry gate, on the QA entry. Yes. And what we will do in here is we will say that there is no CVE that is applicable, that is critical and applicable. And we will put this in only in a warning mode, meaning we will not kill the process and we will not hurt the lifecycle, but we will say that there is a problem and the developer needs to fix it. So no critical CVE detection only. Okay, and so let's do just that. Save it. Go back to the life cycle of Pizza Shop. Looking on the life cycle, and now we see no critical CVE detection. And let's try to promote. Trying to promote this version. Let's see what happens. We see that we succeeded, the promotion succeeded, but we have a warning. If we are looking on the warning, double-clicking on that, we see that there is a problem with the policy of no critical CVE. Going into the details of the evaluation, we see that no critical is the one with the warning. We did pass the evidence of SBOM. We provided salsa provenance, as you saw before. But there was one problem, and this is a triggered issue. This is an issue we will need to solve, even if it will come back later. And this triggered issue, in our case, is a critical CVE that was triggered by our automatic public vulnerability scanner at the gate. And if we will double-click on that, what we will see is a few very important aspects. The first is that this is indeed critical, it is applicable, and this is something coming from Spring Security in that case. And we can also see the direct dependency. In that case, it's a pizza checkout. It's another application that was the direct dependency causing us to bring it into the image. So we need to be able to fix it if we want to keep on working in this version. But as you saw, we didn't fail the promotion. We are okay. Now, if we will try to keep on promoting this specific version, what we will see is we succeeded in the promotion. Trying to release it through the release gate, what will happen is that in that case is that we will fail. And the reason that we fail is that because now the critical applicable CVEs are in a fail decision level, meaning it's not longer a warning. The developer doesn't have any more grace to fix it. Now it's actually a failing one. And so this is too late. This is where we can use AppTrust in a very flexible manner, putting in one of the gates something in a warning level just to trigger the problem, and putting this in a failing level later on if we want to fail the promotion in that case. Now let's do the same with another version. It's a different branch. This is not the latest. It's an earlier branch, as you see. We will try to promote that one, see how it works for us. And it's actually okay. We see that everything is successful. Going again now into another promotion stage, see how it works for us. It looks okay. Everything is green. If we look on that, we are promoted as expected through all the stages. And now let's try to release that. Trying to release this to the last gate. And we are successfully released. And what you see in here, that we got this very important icon. This is something that's called a trusted release. And from that point on, the self-attestation of AppTrust saying this version could be used by any consumer, of course, available through an API. We can use it in the admission control. We can use it by other projects. Anyone can understand is that this version with all the content attached to that, in that case, this is a Docker image that is part of the version. Everything is trusted and could be used by consumer. The last thing that we want to speak about is, of course, traceability. We have an activity log that specifies everything that happened during the application lifecycle, from evidence attached to promotion, to anything that has to do with resources. Everything is in here, traceable, searchable, and of course exportable through an API. And the last thing that we also want to make sure that we keep is traceability for all the evaluations in the gates. Everything that happened, we can always come back to that, see what happened, what were the policy, what passed, what didn't, what were the triggered issues, and make sure that we release only things that we trust that we are okay with as provider. Another important thing that we provide is the ability to monitor critical CVE after a version became trusted release. This is an additional service that we provide to trusted releases. In that case, we are calling this post-release. It's a monitoring service we are doing on releases that the provider cares about. So we can always come back to that. Summarizing all of that. So the summary is, first of all, we allow you to ensure that the application version are trusted. Anything that you release through the release gate or optional lifecycle stages is trusted based on evidence. Everything is based on evidence. It could be custom evidence. It could be evidence out of the box we support based on industry standards. Second, this is your trust level. The customer decide what trust means. It could be anything from an SBOM to SCA test to SAST scans to anything from performance to quality. The customer will decide what trust means. The next thing is the SDLC structure. The release is always there. This is the most important gate. But what comes before, all the stages, all the gates, is the customer to decide. This is virtual maturity stages. The customer will decide what they want to do. And the last, everything could be plugged into any existing pipeline using APIs. It's your pipeline, your build system, and you will be able to add this virtual lifecycle and gates easily to any existing pipeline. That's it. Now, moving into more details about evidence. Sophie, this is your part. Hopefully it was useful for you guys. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Asaf. That was an amazing overview of AppTrust. And now let's discuss the evidence collection ecosystem. I'm Sophie. Let's start. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so AppTrust does a phenomenal job of securing your application itself, the what, and creating this final seal of approval on your release. But now let's talk about how and explore this undeniable, auditable trail of evidence that everything is built upon. This evidence is the critical enabler for you to be able to execute the policies you just saw in AppTrust. And it's about creating this chain of custody that, when paired with AppTrust, provides you the complete end-to-end solution for trusted software. So let's start by looking at the challenge, because the modern SDLC is a complex ecosystem. We have a wide area of tools, IDEs, version control, security scanners. Each of them generates valuable data, but all of this is managed by different teams, and the data comes in countless formats. So the fundamental problem is that this evidence is scattered. It is siloed, hard to correlate, and it's nearly impossible to rely on it, which makes the complexity and the evidence collection very difficult. And without a centralized system, you're left with manual processes and uncertainty, which is a major risk in today's compliance landscape. But now let's take a look at the same release story, but now with the JFrog platform. So our developer gets this Jira ticket with the requirements, and he starts working. And as we go through all of the steps, JFrog will work in the background and collect automatically your evidence. So when your code goes through the quality tests in Sonar, we will collect and attach those evidence to the relevant artifact. And you can answer the question of, does this code really comply with our quality gate? And as you go through the build, we will collect the build provenance and ask you, help you answer the question of what is the birth certificate for our code, when it was, and how and by who it was created. And when our code gets more mature and we will believe we have a valuable release candidate, we will create our application version in JFrog. And as it goes through all of the steps of our SDLC, we will keep attaching it, all of the evidence you will be collecting from your different system, your Cypress support for the quality testing, your change management request from ServiceNow. And when you will have to make the decision about the deployment, we will help you do it and also bring back the evidence that this release version was actually deployed and got acknowledged in the deployment system, all the way to production. So while your team works, JFrog connects the dots that are so critical for you to establish your trust. But what is the ideal approach to collect evidence? First of all, they need to be automated because manual collection is just slow, it is error-prone, and it doesn't scale in the modern DevOps environment. Second, it needs to be end-to-end because we want to cover the entire lifecycle from your Jira ticket, as we just saw, and up until you deploy your code to create the same unbroken chain of custody we just mentioned before. Third, it must be integrated. It has to connect to the tools you are already using, and the solution should adapt to your toolchain, not force you to change it. And finally, the evidence must be trusted. You need a secure, verifiable record that serves as the single source of truth for any audit you will need to do. And those exact approaches is how we've built our evidence collection capabilities. Because on one hand, we want to integrate with a vast ecosystem of tools to give you extensible SDLC coverage. But we still want to give you the flexible ability to attach any evidence to any of the objects in JFrog regarding how your specific SDLC works. We want evidence to be the enabler for the quality controls you just saw in AppTrust, which all of this together will make software release auditing streamlined and very easy and incredibly simple. And if we will take a look at the screenshot we have here of the content graph, we can see our application version, and we can see all of the builds and the packages that were created as part of it, and that created it. And we can see the evidence that were attached to each of them throughout our SDLC. And then we can see all of the steps that this specific release candidate went through, and the testing it went through, and the gates that were approved for it, and finally the deployment certification that the deployment really happened. And ultimately, this makes JFrog your single source of SDLC proof. So here's the first wave of our partnerships. And again, in integrations, this is only the first wave. And this is the marketplace we're bringing to you. And it will keep growing according to your needs and according to your tools. And we're happy to hear from you about tools you feel like we need to cover and to assess them. But let's just dive into two examples that I feel like they're powerful examples about how this works together. Because GitHub, when you're already using GitHub artifact attestations in your GitHub Actions to bring your salsa provenance, to bring your SBOMs, to bring your generic attestations, JFrog will automatically ingest those into our system and attach them to the relevant artifact to help you control and make your own gates and policies later on. Same goes with Sonar. When Sonar are already creating in your pipeline the code quality attestations, the security attestations, we will attach those reports as evidence in our system and help you leverage them later on. So how it all comes together. You have your external tools, same as before, your CI servers, your scanners, your testing frameworks. They're all generating this evidence as we discussed before, but now all of them flow into the JFrog platform, which consolidates them to your single source of SDLC evidence and links them directly to your binaries, which help you move through your SDLC stages and enforce your policy gates and your relevant testing as part of the SDLC. And this is exactly what Asaf showed you in AppTrust, because AppTrust uses those evidence to enforce your governance. So just a quick summary of the key benefits. First, you capture proof of every action across your SDLC in a single and a unified system, which help you see the whole picture in one place attached to your binary. We unify evidence from different tools to one traceable application version and give you one way to access all of them. We create an auditable and trusted chain of custody from those first steps with the JIRA ticket, just as we discussed before, and up until your deployment. We help you automate evidence-based policy gates, as you saw in AppTrust, for your governance and compliance, and they can be based on those evidence which are verifiable and trusted. And at the end, we help you gate promote and deploy to your production to ensure that all of your SDLC evidence trail is verified and you can trust this application before you release it and it goes live. So to see all of this in action and get started, you can scan the QR codes you see now on the screen and see our documentation and examples, and we will be happy to help. So thank you for listening, and back to you, Sean.
Thank you so much, Sophie, Asaf, and Ron, for walking us through those really exciting product updates. Hopefully you saw how JFrog is helping you, one, confidently accelerate your adoption of AI across your org so that your teams can discover models that are appropriate for use. You can control and govern the AI that your teams are bringing in and adding to your applications, and make sure that they're secure, right? And do that in a safe, trusted, and accelerated way. And then with Asaf and Sophie, we talked about how JFrog is really introducing the first ever DevGovOps solution, bringing governance tightly integrated into your development workflow without causing interruptions, streamlining the auditing process that so many of you all love so well, and really making it so that you can trust every version that you release out there to the world. I want to thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions or a couple questions that come through at the very end here that I've not had a chance to reply to, we will go ahead and follow up with you. But thank you all for joining. If you'd like to book any one-on-one demos or conversations, please do feel free to reach out to your JFrog account team, or you can always contact us using the Contact Us form. Thanks again. Have a great day, and we will see you soon.